Hello, this is Greg Nickel, the director of the Side Effects movie that you're about to watch. I thank you for watching it with the commentary track turned on. What we're seeing right here are the credits that I did myself with wide tip markers and construction paper. The blue background being my bedspread at the time in my home in Augusta, Georgia. Me and a group of dear friends we'll describe later went over to Athens on this fateful day in 1980 to film the Side Effects. I was a big fan of the Athens music scene. I went to school there from 77 through 79 and started hanging out there after graduation a lot. Spent a great deal of time in Athens. Fell in love with the local music scene. My favorite of all the bands was the Side Effects. I don't think they ever really got their due. I think R.E.M. and Pylon, B-52s were ultimately better bands, but the Side Effects were my favorite. Hence my interest in making a film about them. We're seeing here footage I shot at an afternoon rehearsal at Tyrone's. If you look out the windows to the left and right of the stage, there was one just over Kit's shoulder there. There's one over Jimmy's shoulder right now. You can see a glass window and the afternoon sun streaming through the trees outside. Yes, this is daylight. No one's in the club except an employee who let us in, sound man, and the band, and me and my crew. That would be Jeffrey L. Rail from North Carolina, who's responsible for this restored version of the film. Ken Sanders, an Augusta buddy, who is now a producer of Lifetime movies out in California. Mike Webb, who's also had a long career in the film industry. And Ken's girlfriend at the time, Amy Ellington, was along with us as well. I made full use of all of them. And at the very end of the shoot, we handed the cameras to everybody else, and Mike Webb and I went out and danced with the crowd during Need in the Street. So I'll point us out when that footage pops up. As you can see, Kit is playing an off-brand copy of a Fender Jaguar and wearing a white David Bowie t-shirt. Always liked this song. We had to cut this song short by one verse because the Super 8 cartridges that I was filming on were not long enough to accommodate the entirety of the song. So the band helpfully trimmed one verse from it so it would all fit on a single cartridge and we'd get a continuous performance. The interview footage was filmed after the evening's public show. It was outside Tyrone's. It was like a little stone step down and the club was up above you. They were opening that night for the Method Actors. The Method Actors you'll hear in the background several times, songs that were later on a wonderful little EP that the band put out, that the Method Actors put out. Interesting that we caught those particular songs in the background entirely by coincidence here. Paul is wearing a pair of glasses, sunglasses, that I wore as an affectation for a year or two. You can see me in the center of the crowd there wearing them, actually. I am in a black t-shirt that has "Love is a Sacrifice" written on the back of it. It's the name of an album by Southside Johnny and the Ashbury Jukes. You can see "Sacrifice" right there, about dead center. Mike Webb is somewhere to the left in his stripes. This was the very end of the shoot, or the very end of the concert. We were out there dancing. I mentioned my sunglasses before. I think Paul took some offense at me wearing the sunglasses after dark, snatched them off my face, and for the duration of the interview here, he's wearing my sunglasses, but upside down, which gives them a rather bizarre look. Very fitting for such a bizarre guy. We had a lot of trouble, obviously, with the sound here because we only had one microphone, and I was trying to pan it back and forth. Didn't work out too well. I finally ended up giving it to Paul, and that was an even bigger mistake. So Jeff and Paul have helpfully added subtitles. I think Paul did the original batch, and Jeff redid them here a little bit, polished them a bit, where necessary, so you can hear the questions I'm asking, because the sound is a little iffy during the interview sequence. But this is, again, outside the club, on a little stone step down that was below Tyrone's. So the band you hear, the Method Actors, are actually above them and behind them at the time, inside the club doing the headlining set of the night. Tyrone's unfortunately burned down several years later and was never rebuilt. That was the end of one of the greatest clubs I ever had the privilege of attending. Such a fine place. I saw so many great... There's Mike in the stripes there, looking like Where's Waldo or something in the middle of the crowd. Very, very helpful camera technician fellow. Oh, yeah, and this part makes me sad. Jimmy Ellison, the bass player, was not able to stick around for the interview. He had to go work at DuPont. Jimmy got some pretty bad cancer and passed away sometime later, and there's a suspicion that he contracted that while working at DuPont. No great leap of the imagination there, but who knows for sure. Jimmy's got a Beatle bass here. It looks like a violin. Paul McCartney was famous for playing those in the early days of the Beatles. And the kids you see here on the left with the blue Suwannee shirt, dancing with the lovely young lady who just spun around there with the short dark hair and the frilly lacy white outfit. Both of them, there's Mike again with his stripes. Both of them, unfortunately, have passed away, and this version of the film is dedicated to them. There's a dedication at the end I hope you'll stick around for. They and Jimmy Ellison, the band's bass player, are the only ones I know for sure no longer with us as of 2020 when I'm recording this for the 40th anniversary of the film. I just hope that they're the only ones we've lost. Not too long ago, I ran into Leslie, the effectette. You'll see her in a few minutes. She looked exactly the same. That was very strange. Like she hadn't aged a day. More of Paul clowning with the microphone here. I'm glad we changed the angle slightly here. A little more from the sound check. Again, you can see the daylight outside the window of Tyrone's. Kit should have been a horror movie actor. He could have been great for playing some sort of devilish cult leader. He's got a very distinctive look. One of the most distinctive looking Athens musicians ever, I think. Paul still, Kit lives overseas now with his family in the Far East. He says, I think it was the mic. Yeah, we think it was your voice, Kit. Paul is still in Athens and gives tours. He's got a big beard like Santa Claus, and be happy to show people around Athens for cross his palm with some silver. Here's a little joke about the lyrics. Kit is being sarcastic about the audience paying such close attention to their serious lyrics. These are, of course, somewhat silly and nonsensical lyrics here. But such a magnificent song and so much fun. Unlike Through With You, we got all of Neat in the Street by filming it with multiple cameras that started at different times, so it gave me a lot of footage. The way I've cut it together, it makes the song look much longer than it actually is. Right. Kid's getting on his case about screwing around with the microphone. There's a battery-operated microphone. I think him shaking it actually dislodged the battery briefly. There's a couple of dropouts in a few unfortunate places. Here's the controversial Atlanta sequence. This I added afterwards. I wanted just a little more in the movie. It runs less than 14 minutes as is, but some months later, Halloween night, I went to the 688 Club in Atlanta, Georgia. Side Effects were opening for Gang of Four that night. Such a great night, such great fun, such great music. But it was just me with a borrowed Super 8 sound camera, and as you can see, it was kind of hard to move. The place was packed so tight. Paul had come dressed as a mummy and gradually over the night shed bits of the mummy costume, so now it looks like almost like he's naked. And you see some of the mummy wrappings draped over the drum kit in the foreground. I believe that's what that is anyway. But yeah, he showed up completely disguised, full head-to-toe mummy wrap when he arrived at the club. I didn't recognize him. I didn't know who he was. And Jimmy is playing that red Ventures model Mosrite bass. I love that instrument. I think he played that at every show he ever played. As soon as he got his hands on it, it was such a lovely instrument. Kit got a matching blue Mosrite guitar at one point, which he used briefly. But that was Jimmy's signature instrument. One of the reasons I put this lengthy sequence in here. Paul trimmed it out of a version that he posted to YouTube. He said it was static. But that was the whole point, to show that the Atlanta crowd was static, whereas the Athens crowd was dancing their fool hearts out. I like the contrast. And here comes Leslie, the effectette. Yeah, There's Leslie wearing an Effectettes t-shirt. And like I say, she turned up at the Athens Rewind event a couple years back, looking absolutely identical. I mean, it was over 30 years, and she looked like she hadn't aged a day. Her co-Effectette, Nadine, is in the crowd here, not quite as visible as Leslie. There is a little arrow indicator pointing out Nadine at one point. And Nadine was the inspiration for an R.E.M. song, Hey Hey Nadine. An early R.E.M. song, you can hear it on some of the bootlegs from their very early days, like when they played at Tyrone's. It was never, as far as I know, officially released, in Warner Brothers or any part of their major label deal. But it's a cult favorite song with R.E.M. fans.
You perform as a hobby, or is it a profession? Do you make a lot of money at it?
Paul's got this theory about music.
Do I?
No.
Yeah, nice little joke here about if you want to make money as a band, sell your equipment. I've quoted that many a time. This is end of the song. You see me there in the foreground with my sunglasses after dark, and Mike Webb, who's nowhere near as tall as me, bopping around in his little Where's Waldo stripes. You see me clapping. I think the last thing in this shot, Leslie walks towards the camera, the Effectette there, and then I walk over and tell, I believe it was Ken Sanders or Jeff, to stop filming. Yeah, there's Nadine finally. Hey, hey, Nadine. And I let this run just because I like the shot of me walking over. There I am walking over saying, okay, stop filming. Yeah. That's the end of our movie. Stick around for the dedication at the end. I thank you for listening to my commentary track, Kurt's Revenge, named after Kurt Wood, who ran the taco stand for years. Huge local record collector and the original drummer of the Woggles. Great guy, still part of the scene. Old Kurt. And this is the dedication here. Oh, well, we have the credit for Jeff and the astonishing work he did on putting this together, restoring it from the old, long-neglected Super 8 original. And here we have, as I mentioned before, the dedication. Stephen and Adele. Both sadly no longer of this earth. And behind them, Jimmy, up there on the stage. I miss him dearly. He was such a great friend and such a swell guy. Anyway, that's all. Thanks for listening.